Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
In some places, it's impossible to get rid of the bad cops.
Justice for George Floyd as local leaders talk policy changes that are desperately needed.
Seeing fellow Black males in this country dying for no reason truly is heartbreaking.
Instead of living in fear, some local teens organize a peaceful protest.
Safety is our guidepost and will continue to be our guidepost.
The plan for the return of students to college campuses.
Evacuations are always important in these kinds of situations. This year, it's ultra critically important.
How COVID-19 complicates a hurricane evacuation plan. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, Cristobal. Tropical storm watches, storm surge watches, and flash flood watches up for much of southern Louisiana and east to the Florida Panhandle.
You're looking at the forecast track. It's a lopsided storm, heaviest action to the east of the center. It's forecast to make landfall late Sunday evening. The governor is urging everyone to be prepared.
Yesterday, I declared a state of emergency for Louisiana because of Cristobal. Later today, I will request a pre-landfall federal emergency declaration from the White House. We are working with FEMA in order to fashion that request. We've also been in contact with all of the parish officials in South Louisiana about the preparations for the past, about their preparations over the past several days. It is not too late to get a game plan, so I'm encouraging people, if they haven't done so, to get a game plan. You can go to getagameplan.org.
More on the hurricane season in a moment. Now we'll look at other headlines, leading off with some reactions in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd, allegedly at the hands of police. Governor John Bel Edwards this week thanked the people of Louisiana for holding peaceful demonstrations in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. Edwards says because of that, quote, I happen to think voices are actually being heard better. LSU's national champ football coach Ed Orgeron says his players are hurting, and they let me know they're hurting. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, Coach O says, when they're hurting, it hurts me. I love all my players like they were my own. I will not tolerate racism, and they know it. Saints quarterback Drew Brees apologized Thursday for comments on disrespecting the flag, saying he completely missed the mark on current issues. He says it breaks my heart to know the pain I've caused. He's asking for forgiveness. Some teammates and NFL players are calling him out, though Saints linebacker Demario Davis says his apology is a true form of leadership. A state prosecutor is investigating the cases of two men who died 2 weeks apart last April in the custody of Shreveport police. Caddo District Attorney James E. Stewart Sr. is asking the public for help with any video or information about the deaths of Tommy McLaughlin on April 5th and Wavy Austin on April 19th. Stewart says Shreveport police files about the cases have missing reports, and he expects those reports to be delivered by next week. The state today moves into phase 2 in its coronavirus restrictions, allowing bars and spas, except in New Orleans, to reopen and other businesses to expand occupancy. The continued falling rates of those in the hospital with COVID-19 is allowing the state to move forward. About 2/3 of people eligible have signed up for a program aimed at making sure children from low-income families can get healthy meals while schools are closed for the pandemic. Education leaders say June 8th is the deadline to sign up for the Pandemic Electronic Benefits Transfer Program, or PEBT. An explosive whistleblower lawsuit, unsealed this week, alleges a California engineering firm pushed Xavier University, Dillard University, the Archdiocese of New Orleans, and the city's public school system to cheat the federal government out of more than $100 million. The money was meant to rebuild or replace destroyed buildings in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. The firm, AECOM, denies any wrongdoing.
Now let's take a look at the news making headlines at the state capitol.
Senator Karen Carter Peterson turned heads in an extraordinary power play to oust the chairman of the gambling board, Ronnie Jones, during a private session of the Senate, using a little-known authority to veto appointees. Peterson was forced to acknowledge she's a gambling addict after violating a rule that would not allow her to enter Louisiana casinos back in March of 2019. Peterson is also the longtime chair of the Louisiana Democratic Party, so the move also puts her at odds with Governor John Bel Edwards, the state's most prominent Democrat. The governor criticized the move without naming Peterson and quickly named a new gambling leader, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Noel, who has a long law enforcement background. Lawmakers continue to work on piecing together a budget with their biggest unresolved financial question not about the coronavirus pandemic, but how much money they want to give in tax breaks to help businesses recover from the outbreak. Legislators are just days into a special session. They will use some of the special session to fix problems with tort reform they hope the governor signs into law. In the final moments of the regular session, GOP leaders realized they mangled the language of the bill aimed at limiting damage claims against insurance companies in car wreck lawsuits. Some are downplaying the gaffe, saying they have plenty of time to tweak the wording.
As the unrest continues throughout the nation in light of the death of George Floyd, it was a very different scene in downtown Baton Rouge on Sunday. African Americans were joined by people of all colors in a peaceful protest organized by 3 area teenagers, and they say this is just the beginning.
2 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old did something Sunday many doubted they could accomplish.
We decided to host a peaceful protest because, well, first of all, a lot of people said that Baton Rouge and Louisiana couldn't have a peaceful protest after Alton Sterling.
Mia Spears, Colleen Temple, and Noah Hawkins organized the rally, calling for justice, equality, and an end to police brutality. Protesters walking from Galdes Plaza to the state capitol carrying signs and chanting in memory of George Floyd and other African Americans killed at the hands of police. The support they received even surprised them.
We didn't think it would be very big. Maybe, like I said, about 100 to 150 people.
Racial injustice across this country. I ask us all to raise.
Around 2,000 people showed up, and the message was clear. The teenagers struck a chord, feelings that hit too close to home for Noah Hawkins.
Growing up, I've always been told that I need to realize that I am a Black male, and I need to realize what I am doing and be aware of who I'm around and certain things I should say and certain things I shouldn't say, and just overall awareness. But seeing fellow Black males in this country dying for no reason truly is heartbreaking, and it just gives me some fear. But I wanted to be able to use that fear in a productive way and not hide at home and not do anything about it.
Myra Richardson led the youth protest following the death of Alton Sterling back in 2016 and offered advice to the teens. She says their rally was just the beginning.
One of them that we're very passionate about and that we're formulating a campaign behind is supporting Black businesses. It's so important, especially as we see what's going on around the country, that we see our Black businesses uplifted, that we see people patronizing those businesses, that we see representation, that these people are designers, these people are consultants, these people are attorneys, educators.
In a meeting after the rally with Mayor President Sharon Weston-Broome, Spears, Temple, and Hawkins listed their demands for change.
I'm really passionate about more funds, like dedicated funds being given to disenfranchised communities so they can have more community centers and organizations for the youth to go to.
The Civil Service Board, I think those positions are very important, and I think that having those positions be elected positions would help the population, would help Baton Rouge have representatives who have their best interest in mind.
For me, I really want to see the low income and just more poverty-stricken areas in our community, rebuild it and have more funds allocated towards it.
The shackles were still on their ankles.
All believe these changes will lead to reform that will help improve their neighborhoods and relationships with law enforcement. Until then, though, on streets around the country, outrage and pain for the loss of another African American as the world watched.
The anger is coming from a place of seeing yourself in him, because every Black child, every Black person can imagine a situation that they might be next.
Another youth group is rallying against racism and injustice right now in Zachary, Louisiana, and there's also a town hall planned for June 11th. George Floyd's death under the knee of a white police officer in Minnesota more than a week ago has led to public protests around the country and right here in Louisiana. Vandalism, looting, and scores of arrests have followed, anger boiling over as African Americans and others marching with them seek justice not only for Floyd, but for countless of others who they say were killed because of the color of their skin. We talked to Eugene Collins, president of the Baton Rouge NAACP. We asked him, what now?
Eugene Collins, president of the Baton Rouge chapter of the NAACP, says protests like the ones we're seeing here and throughout the country are important, but
we got to hold the people that we vote for accountable when we talk about policy making. You know, I love the people. I love to see the people out having their voice heard. I love to see folks, you know, making sure that the system does not forget about them. You know, Dr. King once quoted that a riot is the language of the unheard. So people are making sure right now that they're heard. But let's not give the policymakers a way out. We're seeing a lot of noise, but we're not really seeing people use that noise to put policy in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or we can at least slow the process of it. But at this stage, what I'm seeing is, you know, we're making a lot of noise. But if policy doesn't change, we're going to be walking right back through the same door.
Baton Rouge has been through those doors and is no stranger to protest. The death of Alton Sterling in July of 2016 led to calls for murder charges against the two white officers who were caught on video pinning Sterling down before one of them shot him several times. Collins says he's happy to see young people taking an active role, but he's disappointed in many adults who are not seizing this moment and pushing for change.
We're not getting the same type of effort, in my opinion, from some of the elders that should be in the boardrooms and working and using this moment to get rid of police contracts, to make sure that, you know, the use of force policies are being updated.
He says without changes in police contracts and other policing policies, he says bad cops will be allowed to stay on the force, and situations like we're experiencing now will always be with us.
Until we get rid of our police union contract, every police chief is going to be hamstrung. So in that particular instance, I think sometimes we blame the police departments too much. And when we do, we give the lawmakers and the policymakers a way out that should be working on a way on how to get out of this horrendous police union contract. We just blame what we would call sometimes the symptom, you know, and not ever attack the sickness. We end up in a situation where we'll never reach what is actually the issue.
And
in Louisiana, we got an attorney general that doesn't ever charge officers. And that ain't changed with none of this. I still don't have any confidence that he's going to ever charge any officer that comes before him, just like I don't have any confidence that any district attorney is going to try it without sending it to him, without recusing themselves, because they know that he will not charge officers.
He says as we find ourselves tangled again in very real racial tensions and very visible disparities, we can no longer just hold our breath and hope for change to come. He says we have to make our votes count.
It's time to vote folks out of office. And not only that, when we vote for other folks, we got to stop making this a doggone homecoming court, who's popular. Actually look at the resumes of people that you're voting for. You know, in our communities, we will vote for people with no success. You ain't never ran at McDonald's, but you want to run my district. Like, how many times does that have to be the case? And I ain't saying that you got to be no college graduate or nothing like that, but you have to have some type of success at something before we vote you in office. We got to stop letting haircuts and chicken win our vote. And as long as that's the case, as long as we vote for who our grandmother voted for, we're going to always be in this spot where we have policymakers that are so keen on keeping their seat that they're not willing to do what it takes to make our community better, progress our community forward.
Collins says Baton Rouge has seen a lot of improvements in policing under the leadership of Police Chief Murphy Paul and the addition of body cameras. But he says there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to improve and repair relationships between police and the communities they serve.
Words aren't enough. It really is going to take action, and we're teachers. So I think what teachers do is lead discussion, and hopefully teachers learn.
LSU President Tom Galligan with some thoughts about changing our hearts and minds and confronting the uncomfortable in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd. He and other college presidents across the state will welcome students back to campuses this fall. That's the plan. I talked with the three university heads about what we'll see.
I keep saying this, safety is our guidepost and will continue to be our guidepost.
LSU President Tom Galligan, UL System President Jim Henderson, and Tulane President Mike Fitz discussed what the new normal will look like come fall. For Tulane, classes will start a little earlier, August 19th, and continue through November 24th.
And the purpose is literally to minimize all the occasions when people at the campus would go off and visit elsewhere for Thanksgiving or a holiday, but to keep people on campus.
Big classes, over 100, will be online unless they're in a huge room. Other classes will be in bigger spaces so that students can be physically apart from one another, and they will wear masks. And I think the mask is, I wear a mask when I'm in a public space to protect other people. So this is a do unto others thing. Right now, we probably won't see more than 2 people in any residence hall room. We've got some 3s and some 4s, but we're thinking no, 2 is a good number for that. And Andre, one other thing that may be different is we haven't decided this yet, but we are seriously thinking that we will not physically come back to campus after Thanksgiving.
Galligan and other university system presidents meet weekly to discuss plans.
One of the things that we're talking about is sample testing of 10 to 16% of our population. And we're now in conversation as well with Southern about cooperating in that project. So having good conversations. Again, we're optimistic. Hopefully we'll move forward together. But yes, we're all talking.
Henderson oversees the vast UL system schools.
And that's going to mean a different look, I would think, huh?
What, as we start thinking of contemplating returning to campus, right, we're thinking about it in accordance with 4 key principles. First is health and safety of faculty, staff, and students. Second is the continuity of the educational mission. And these are hierarchical, so they're not 4 separate priorities. They follow each other. The third, of course, is the financial health of these institutions. And fourth is this need for communities to reopen, right? To be associated with these institutions that are the lifeblood of those communities. And so that's what's driving everything that we do. But it is going to look quite a bit different than it did, say, a year ago at this time. Events are such an important part of the university life. And so that following guidance from health officials and of course from the governor's office and others, we hope to have a lot of those events. You may not be able to see packed auditoriums with 1,000 or 1,200 people, but I do think we'll be able to bring some of that cultural enrichment back. So much of that brings us together as communities, to the extent we can do it in a safe way.
And what about football and fans and all sports?
And we hope everybody's there, but if everybody can't be there, we hope some people can be there. And if we can have some people there in the first couple of weeks, then we hope we can have more people there in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be smart. We're going to be careful. But we know how important LSU, the cultural events, the athletic events are to the community. And while we probably won't be back at, as the athletes say, 110%, we'd rather come back at some level and build safely.
You know, what I love about Tulane is the relational culture. Our students want to be there because of their ability to connect with one another. So on the one hand, it will be an accelerated semester, so they'll have a lot of time to connect with one another. But social distancing is going to place barriers in the way of that.
Our knowledge of this virus continues to grow. The guidance that comes from health officials continues to evolve. And so I remain optimistic, but also understand I'm very realistic that things could go the opposite way, and we could be more restricted. And so as long as we're all personally responsible as much as we possibly can be, I think we can work to make that more optimistic reality come to fruition.
Now back to hurricane season with a storm knocking on our door. Some experts are calling this the year of the evacuation. State climatologist Barry Keim explained why and discussed the season forecast. NOAA forecasters are predicting an above normal 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, which officially runs from June 1st through November 30th. State climatologist Barry Keim explained why.
We have warm sea surface temperatures across the tropical Atlantic. That's the first piece. So that provides the energy that feeds into the storms. We're currently ENSO neutral, which means we're neither in an El Nino nor a La Nina, but we're drifting towards La Nina. And La Ninas, unfortunately, work the opposite of El Ninos, as you might expect, creates very favorable upper air. And so that's going to feed into perhaps an above normal season. And then the third factor is that the West African monsoon is running more active than normal. And what that does is spins up more of these little perturbations in the atmosphere, which can move out into the Atlantic Ocean off the African continent and serve as a nexus for one of these tropical waves and eventually into a tropical depression.
Forecasters are calling for 13 to 19 named storms. 3 names have already been checked off.
Even if we end up on the low end of this spectrum, we're still slightly above the long-term average. And obviously, if we're on the upper end of this, we're way above normal and looking at a pretty hellacious season. So of those 13 to 19 named storms, we're calling for anywhere from 6 to 10 hurricanes, whereby 6 would be average. So if we're on the low end, we're at average, and anything above that is going to be above average. And then for major hurricanes, they're calling for anywhere from 3 to 6 major hurricanes. 3 would be the long-term average. All indicators right now are pointing toward a pretty busy season.
Forecasters at the National Hurricane Center are making 2 key changes to their visual explanations of hurricane risk this year. A new map outlining the threat of hurricane storm surges and the addition of another time interval for basic hurricane forecast maps. The changes could help in evacuation decisions. Then there's the coronavirus in the mix.
When you throw in the factors that are happening with the pandemic and with a hurricane and with all of that, it's a bit overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is just going to put a whole new wrinkle in this season. And because of that, I would say, look, evacuations are always important in these kinds of situations. This year, it's ultra critically important because you do not want to end up in a shelter of last resort if a storm comes. Those are hellish nightmares under the best of circumstances. Now you throw in COVID-19 in the fear of getting pretty dangerously ill on top of it, just creates a horrible situation. So I'd say this year, if you're outside the levee systems, you just need to get out of there because you do not want to end up in one of these shelters. And then of course, if you end up in one of these shelters, think about the Katrina situation, then you're there for days on end. You can end up on a bus somewhere and being shipped to some far off location, herded like cattle basically. And that's just not going to be good for this COVID-19 situation. So this is definitely the year of the evacuation. You do not want to end up in a shelter of last resort, especially this year.
Another discovery involves the impact of the Mississippi River as it empties into the Gulf. Recent research, developed in part by using remotely operated ocean gliders that measure temperature and salinity levels, are showing the fresh water at the surface can block or slow a hurricane's ability to draw deeper salt water to the surface. That dynamic keeps out the deeper, cooler water that could reduce the intensity of a slow-moving hurricane.
It's a very critical piece to the puzzle to understanding how these forecasts do change as these storms approach the coastline. So this could actually help us with some of that intensity forecasting that we've done so poorly at in terms of improvements over time. I mean, we just haven't made any improvements in 2 or 3 decades.
And you can find up-to-date storm information online at lpb.org.
And as we continue to deal with the fallout from the coronavirus pandemic, a local golf association is challenging other clubs to give to the Baton Rouge Food Bank or the food banks in their hometowns. The Capital City Golf Association donated $1,000 and volunteered to pack boxes this week. The group hopes that others around the state will help those in need by donating at least $1,000 and volunteering to help much-needed food banks and pantries throughout this great state.
That is fantastic. And that is our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB Anywhere app.
The download is free from your app store. You can catch LPB news, public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.